What's up, guys? My name is Daniel. I'm one of the youth interns here at Trinity, and I'm so stoked to be here with you guys today to continue to talk to you guys about the story of Joseph. A little bit about myself is that I'm super new to the Okanagan, and I think that it's one of the most beautiful places in all of Canada. So if you guys have any places that you love to go or you love to go eat or anything, I'd love to hear about those places. Please just come find me and tell me. So last week, remember Sarah talked about living like you never know who might be watching and how conducting our lives with integrity is so important. And we looked at how Joseph did that in his own life, even in slavery. And when we pick up with Joseph on page 33, he's out of prison, moving into leading the whole nation of Egypt through a 7-year famine, which basically means that anywhere that was producing food before was now unable to do so because of dryness or lack of rain. So, for 7 years, Joseph had to make sure that he stored up enough food for a whole nation. I don't know about you guys, but I have enough trouble packing my lunch in the morning, let alone packing a lunch for a whole nation for 7 whole years. If I was Joseph, there would be some hungry people in Egypt for those 7 years. So how does Joseph do it? Well, Joseph has to become a man with a plan. And I'm not just talking a small plan. I'm talking a mega plan. Take a minute and talk in your small groups about a time when you had to make a plan. Big or small, how did it go? And what did that process look like for you? Thanks for sharing, guys. So Joseph, the man with the plan, working his plan, making sure that the people are getting the food they need. And you know what? As Joseph is acting out his plan, we get to see how God's plan is unfolding in Joseph's life. God is using Joseph, the same guy whose own brothers sold him into slavery, who ended up as a prisoner. God is using him in epic ways. God says, "Hey, Joseph, I'm not done with you. I have a place for you." I bet when Joseph was sitting in jail, he probably had days where he thought, how could God ever use me? I know I've felt like that before. When I don't do as well as I wanted to in school, or I'm not perfect for others around me, or I don't look like that person, or when I can't please people, or I'm just lazy on a Sunday morning. But God has a plan for you, and He has a plan for me. He has a purpose for you, and He has a purpose for me. And He had a purpose for Joseph. Joseph is continuing to lead the nation of Egypt. Meanwhile, Joseph's brothers are affected by the famine as well. So Jacob, Joseph's father, sends all of Joseph's brothers, except Benjamin, to get some food from Egypt. So all the brothers show up, and instantly Joseph recognizes them. But they don't recognize him. And as much as Joseph probably wanted to reveal himself to his brothers, he didn't. How was Joseph supposed to know that his brothers had changed since that day that they sold him into slavery? So Joseph's brothers request food for their family. But Joseph tells them that they must return with all their brothers in order to receive food. So the brothers return home and tell their father about the conditions that the man in Egypt had made in order for the family to get food. But Jacob did not want to send his son Benjamin with the brothers because he loved Benjamin, and he loved Benjamin the way that he loved Joseph, and he didn't want to lose another son. But eventually, Jacob budged, and he sent Benjamin with the brothers to get food. When they arrived in Egypt, they saw Joseph again, not recognizing him, not recognizing that he was their brother that they sold into slavery. So here on page 37, it says that they bowed down before him to the ground. And, whoa, hold up. Remember, Joseph had that dream where his brothers would bow down to him. And this was that moment. God had orchestrated this whole thing. God had planned this even before Joseph was sold into slavery. It says on page 37 that Joseph was deeply moved by the sight of his brother Benjamin. And he hurried out and looked for a place to weep. But Joseph still couldn't be sure that his brothers had changed, so he didn't reveal himself to them just yet. He brought them in and fed them and sent them on their way with all the food that they could carry. But Joseph had a little trick up his sleeve. He was going to be sure that his brothers had changed. Joseph told his servants to put some of his own prized possessions in Benjamin's food bag before sending them on their way. So Joseph sent them off, and then he sent his men after them. And when they opened up their food bags, they saw that Benjamin had been framed. And they were brought back to Joseph and begged that Joseph would have mercy on their brother Benjamin, and that they would not put him in prison or make him a slave. And they began to volunteer to take Benjamin's place. And they said, "No, take me instead of Benjamin. No, take me. Don't take Benjamin, take me." And when Joseph saw his brothers like this, he knew that they had changed. So Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. And they must have been so shocked. I imagine a super cinematic shot panning across all 10 brothers, jaws dropped, eyes wide open, absolutely shocked, confused, and terrified at the same time. What? This is your brother who you sold into slavery. Joseph instructed his brothers to bring their father to Egypt. So they did as he said. Naturally, Joseph's brothers were a little confused how Joseph would just forgive them for selling him into slavery all those years ago. But Joseph is quoted with this famous line on page 42. It says this: "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is being done now, the saving of many lives. You see, Joseph saw that God had a plan to save many lives. God was remaining faithful to Joseph and his family through slavery, through being put in prison. God had a plan. He used Joseph to help save lives. And it probably wasn't easy for God to see Joseph go through all that pain and suffering, but he had a plan. And what Joseph's brothers intended for evil, God used for good. And if you guys don't hear anything else that I say, please hear this, that God has a plan for you. He does. He loves you so, so much. Man, God thinks you're awesome. And he wants to use your gifts and abilities to bring glory to him. And you know what? Sometimes that process is not super fun, or it feels hopeless, or like God could never use me. But let me tell you, Joseph was sold by his brothers as a slave. Joseph was in prison, and God used him to save lives. God was faithful to Joseph. God is faithful to you. And you know what? Sometimes life is hard. Sometimes the hard things in life, God is using to form you and prepare you for what he has planned for you. I remember when I was in grade 11, and man, life was good. But one day my parents sat me and my 3 siblings down and told us that we'd be moving at the end of the summer. And that meant that I was going to be doing grade 12 halfway across the country. And let me tell you, it was not a fun year. I had to leave all my friends. My older brother moved out. I didn't know anybody. It sucked. I remember the first day of school, I made a countdown to the end of the year. And that's a long countdown. I didn't want to be there at all. But you know what? That year I grew a lot closer to my family. I learned that meeting new people is possible. It's a little bit scary, but it's possible. I learned that moving can open up the possibility to so many different new adventures. And I've moved 6 times since then. And every time, God reveals to me a new piece of how and why he created me. Getting a clearer understanding of what God's purpose is for me. In your group, talk about something hard that you've had to do. What did you learn from it? And how did God help you through that time? How did you feel God's faithfulness through it? You know what, guys? The story of Joseph reminds me of Jesus. Before he went to die on the cross, it says in Matthew chapter 26, he prayed that God would take away the suffering that he was about to endure. Praying that if there was any other way to carry out the plans that God had, that would happen. But God had great plans to save mankind. And he had to send Jesus to the cross. And he had to send Joseph into Egypt. He had to move me halfway across the country to teach me about the plans he had for me. And you know what? Sometimes experiences are hard. But we have to remember to trust God and remember that he thinks you're so amazing and he loves you so, so much. And he has a plan for you. How do you think you can know God's plan for you? What do you think God's plan for you is this week? And how do you think God can use you in the future?